You don't have to spend a fortune to have some wonderful houseplants in your home. There are many affordable houseplants you can buy that look fantastic, and I've got 12 of my favourite plants in this video that you can choose from to brighten up your home. Let's get cracking. The first plant on my list is a relatively recent purchase for me, and it's the Aglaonema, or the Chinese evergreen. I'm a big fan of this plant because I think it looks great with those big colourful leaves. It's easy to care for, generally quite cheap. You should be able to pick one up in a 12cm pot for about £15, which I think is really good value for such a nice looking plant. I've had this plant around 3 months and it's regularly putting out new leaves, so it's a fast grower and I've not had any issues with it. The Aglaonema is a little less common in the big box stores in the UK. I was lucky enough to find mine in one of my recent IKEA shopping trip videos, which is a really rare find in IKEA, but you should be able to pick this up in your local garden centre. Number 2 on my list is the Pothos Devil's Ivy. So this is a vining type plant that grows super quickly and has very subtle variegation in the leaves. It's another plant that is super easy to care for. I've had mine for about a year and I've not had any issues with it. You can normally pick up this plant in a 12cm pot for under £10, which I think is fantastic value for money. Pothos plants are generally good value for money, and there are many varieties out there. Check out the Golden Pothos or the Lemon and Lime, which are 2 of my favourites, and they're also pretty cheap. So you should have no problems finding this plant in your local garden centre for a decent price. The Zamioculus zamiifolia, or the ZZ plant for short, is a larger plant that can normally be purchased for under £20. This plant is very slow growing and one of the easiest plants to care for because it can tolerate very low light conditions and hardly needs any water because it has those bulbs in the soil. So this is a really versatile plant that is suitable for most spaces in your home. There is a Raven variety of this plant with kind of more of a distinctive dark green leaves that is usually a little bit more expensive, but I do think it's still good value. The ZZ plant is very common and you will be able to pick one up in your local big box store or your local garden centre. The next plant on my list is the classic spider plant. So again, this is a very common plant that you'll be able to pick up in any of your local stores, and it's also really affordable. I really like how this plant looks. I have one hanging in a macrame hanger in my living room and I think it looks great. The good thing about these is that they produce baby offshoot plants that can be easily propagated, therefore multiplying the number of these plants you have for free. I have a video on how you can do this if you wanted to check that out after this. The umbrella plant, or the Schefflera, is a plant that always surprises me how cheap it is. They're normally sold quite large and they rarely cost more than £10 to £15. I think this is great value, especially if you get a variegated one like the one I have. So I have mine in my hallway sitting on a IKEA shoe cabinet and I think it looks really great there. It's really easy to care for. I've not had any issues with mine whatsoever, and I'm regularly getting new shoots coming out of the top of the stem. The 6th plant on my list is the very popular Sansevieria, or snake plant, or mother-in-law tongues plant. There are many different varieties of this plant. I have 2 types in my collection. I've got one of the more standard varieties that you'll be able to find anywhere, basically in all the shops. And I've also got a variegated one with those yellow stripes on the rim of the leaves. Snake plants are always very affordable and very easy to find. You'll be able to find them in your local stores, and they're also really popular in IKEA. They're more of a statement piece, I think, with those sculptural leaves, which I think is why they're so popular. They'll also do well in darker spots in your house, so they're very versatile, and they require very little water, so they're really easy to care for. Chinese money plants are a staple of many homes and became extremely popular a few years ago. So with that, they became readily available in all the big box stores and all your garden centres, and this made them more and more affordable. Like the spider plant, they can be easily propagated from the baby offshoots it regularly sends out, so you can continue to easily multiply the plants. so you're getting really good value for money. You normally buy them quite small, but they can grow to be quite large quite quickly, so long as you're giving it the right light conditions. I think they look really interesting. If you do buy one, don't be alarmed to see the lower leaves drop off the central stem as it gets taller. This is a natural process for the plant, and it can't really be avoided as it gets older. The next plant on my list is one of my favourite species of plant, and it's the Tradescantia. So I've got many types of Tradescantia, including the Zebrina, I've got a Tiana, a Nanook and a teddy bear vine, and they're all really affordable. Tradescantias are extremely quick growers and very easy to propagate. You just need to get a few different varieties to propagate from, and you'll have tons of plants in your home in no time. They are a vining plant and will cascade down from the pots. They can be a little bit temperamental, but if you follow my care guide, which I got on my channel, you should be fine. My personal favourite Tradescantia is the Nanook. I think the colouring on this plant is gorgeous with those purple coloured leaves, especially on the underside of the leaves. Another plant that I find surprising to be so affordable is the Peperomia houseplant. There are so many different types of this plant, and I have 4 in my collection. I've got the Santorini, the Obtusifolia, the Angulata and the Polybotria. All of these plants are surprisingly very affordable, not really costing more than say £10. So I picked up my Polybotria in IKEA, and any plant that IKEA sells is generally affordable. And I bought my other ones in my local nursery, and I think they were all under £6, and they've all grown on very nicely since then. Peperomias are easy to care for and can be easily propagated. They don't like wet feet, but apart from that, they're pretty unfussy. I've got a tour video on all the Peperomias I have in my collection if you're interested to watch that after this video. The Philodendron Brasil is a variegated version of the green philodendron, with distinctive green and yellow leaves that is surprisingly affordable. You'll be able to get one in a 12cm pot for under £10, which I think is really great value for money. So this is one of my favourite houseplants in my collection. I really do think it looks lovely. It's easy to care for, and like I say, it's surprisingly cheap. I've got a recent care guide for this plant for you to have a look at after this. The next plant is one that I have lots of in my house, and it's the peace lily. This plant is an absolute staple in so many homes and probably one of the most common and most popular houseplants out there. I think this is why they're so cheap, but don't let that put you off. You normally buy this plant with lots of those delicate white flowers, so the growers are able to encourage the plant to push out lots of flowers in time for selling the plant. When they're finished blooming, it's quite difficult to get them to bloom again in your home, so in that case people tend to throw them out, but be patient, give it lots of natural light, and it should send out those white flowers again. The next plant on my list is another flowering plant that looks absolutely stunning in various different colours available, and it's the Anthurium Laceleaf. You'll be able to find this plant in lots of different colours to suit your taste, and they're also really affordable. They produce these waxy flowers that last a fairly long time, and it looks really cool. Keep the soil moist but not wet, and keep it in a bright spot, and you'll have a happy plant for a very long time. You should be able to pick up a decent sized one for under £10, which is good value for money. Do you know what the most expensive plant ever sold was and how much it sold for? Well, if you click on the link here, I will tell you the incredible story of the most expensive plant ever sold in 2005. I'll see you there, and thank you very much for watching.